just seem like I'm just there to be the actor and ready to get the gig, I wouldn't reveal that I actually need to have authorship in order to feel fulfilled. So I think that for them, sometimes that might have felt like a rug.
The timing of this settlement has Hollywood whispering constantly, and the thing people keep coming back to is a specific theory that has started gaining traction across every serious conversation about this case. Blake waited until the very last possible moment to settle, and the reason people believe she did that is because she needed certain documents to enter the public record first. Get the paperwork out there, let it circulate, then quietly exit the legal fight. That is the real conversation happening right now. And the more details that surface, the worse this entire situation looks for Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds simultaneously. Meanwhile, the embarrassment has reached the point where even Blake's own legal team appears to want to quietly dissolve into the background. You remember the celebratory LinkedIn post from her attorneys, the one that read like they had personally saved the entire American legal system from collapse? Gone, deleted, vanished without explanation. And nobody in the history of public relations deletes a victory post unless the internet has started making that post extremely uncomfortable for the people who wrote it.
He's like being nicer. He's like, your lawyers are really stupid.
The post was remarkable in its self-congratulation. The law firm announced Blake's supposed massive win against Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios with language about justice, retaliation, survivors, smear campaigns. Every heavy, emotionally loaded Hollywood buzzword strung together in sequence. One attorney provided a quote about Blake having exposed people who weaponize the legal process to silence women. It read like the prepared remarks for an acceptance speech at an awards ceremony that does not exist. Then people read the actual settlement details. Blake Lively received $0. Not a reduced figure, not a compromised number, not even a token payment designed to let both sides claim some version of victory. Nothing. That single fact dismantled the celebratory framing so completely that the post became actively damaging to keep up. Hence the deletion. The question this produced is the one entertainment media cannot stop asking. If the underlying case was genuinely as strong as the public campaign suggested, why walk away from it without securing any financial recovery after spending millions fighting it publicly across more than a year? The answer coming from Blake's sources, that this was never about money, has been received with considerable skepticism, primarily because that specific claim tends to appear most reliably when a financial demand has collapsed, and the party making the claim needs a different framing to explain why. Nobody could ever point to a concrete, documented smear campaign against Blake Lively, of the kind her team repeatedly invoked across months of public messaging. The concept of a coordinated underground PR machine methodically working to destroy her career and reputation was central to the framing her operation built and maintained. But when people tried to identify the actual mechanics of this campaign, the fake websites, the organized attacks placed through paid channels, the fabricated stories being seeded into media outlets, the specific financial relationships between the alleged campaign and its alleged outputs, they could not locate them. What they could find, in significant and well-documented quantity, was organic public backlash generated by audiences reacting to Blake's own conduct, her own interviews, her own text messages that entered the public record, her own public appearances, and the specific contradictions between what she said publicly and what the documentation showed privately. An organic backlash generated by a subject's own behavior and a coordinated paid smear campaign are categorically different things, and the conflation of the two required audiences to accept a framing that a growing number of them were not willing to extend. Hollywood insiders have started sounding genuinely tired of this entire situation rather than interested or entertained by it. Every week produces another leak that makes the whole enterprise look more strategically calculated and less emotionally genuine. Ryan Reynolds suddenly reconnecting with former professional relationships that had reportedly been strained for years. Blake switching her Instagram content toward pizza slices and casual food posts, as though relatable girl next door energy was always the aesthetic she had been building toward, rather than something her team deployed specifically to counteract months of perception that she was imperious and disconnected. People are not buying the pivot. Blake spent extended months talking publicly about body shaming, about the emotional weight of public scrutiny, about what it costs a woman to stand up against powerful forces. And then the Instagram content shifted to casual junk food celebration. The dissonance between those two registers is visible enough that audiences have been commenting on it directly rather than letting it slide. Ryan's quiet reconnection tour is generating its own commentary. Actors from his Deadpool world are suddenly offering warm public praise after years during which the energy between those relationships had reportedly been awkward. Old co-worker content is getting reposted. The timing against the backdrop of declining public favor makes every gesture read as damage control rather than genuine warmth. Hollywood operates as a relationship business, and when people sense the currency of their public image starting to depreciate, the instinct to repair professional connections activates quickly. That process is usually subtle enough to go unnoticed. In this environment, it is not subtle enough.
High. They were totally high on their own supply of power. They were enjoying it. They were enjoying humiliating Justin Baldoni. Like I said, they got so close.
The Colleen Hoover text messages changed the shape of this conversation in ways that I think people are still processing. When the latest batch of unsealed documents dropped and people started reading through the exchanges between Blake and Colleen, the dynamic they revealed was not what most people expected to find. The texture of the relationship looked less like friendship between equals and considerably more like Blake managing someone she'd identified as strategically necessary to keep in her corner. Reading the messages, you can almost track the specific mechanism in operation. Colleen is in the position of the person who has been invited into the circle and is visibly eager to remain there, thanking Blake for bringing back her creative excitement, expressing appreciation for being included in the process even when her ideas were not used, performing genuine gratitude for access. What makes this dynamic especially visible is the specific quality of Colleen's language. She is not communicating as someone who sees herself as an equal collaborator on a project she created. She is communicating as someone who feels fortunate to be included by someone she perceives as having significantly more cultural power and who is working to remain valuable in that person's eyes. It reads as someone eager to hold their position in a hierarchy they have only recently been granted entry to, rather than as the creator of the source material, speaking with the authority that role might naturally imply. Blake's responses carry the unmistakable quality of someone who is aware of the dynamic and comfortable operating within it from the position of authority. At one point in the exchange, Colleen is offering suggestions about scene construction and emotional character beats, approaching the conversation as a collaborative partner. Blake's responses position her as the final arbiter of the film's emotional direction, not just as an actress offering perspective, but as someone who treats her own creative authority as settled rather than as one input among several. You can feel the specific quality of Colleen's attempts to remain valuable and connected in Blake's orbit. And then the messages shift into territory that genuinely alarmed people reading them closely. Blake pivots into an extended, emotionally intense monologue about her experience on set. The isolation, the difficulty, the sense that nobody in the production structure understood what she was bringing to the material, the feeling of being alone until certain people showed up to support her. She delivers this to Colleen while Colleen is actively pouring admiration and affection toward her. The language Blake uses is theatrical in a way that feels unusual, even accounting for the inherently dramatic tendencies of creative people. She tells Colleen that her support felt like a big, gold plot twist at the happy ending of a hellscape. That specific phrasing stood out to a significant number of people reading it because it sounds like someone who never fully turns the performance off, someone for whom even private text communication is another opportunity to generate emotional impact, It reads as performing intimacy rather than experiencing it. And once that read settles into how you see Blake across the rest of the messages, it becomes difficult to unsee. Ryan's post-premiere message to Colleen acquired a different quality in this new context. He sent her an extended apology for not spending adequate time with her at the premiere of It Ends With Us. At the time, it read as courtesy from a polite person. Now people are reading it as a calculated piece of relationship management, the kind you deploy when you need someone to continue feeling valued because they still control an audience you depend on. The theory circulating in Hollywood gossip spaces is that Blake and Ryan needed Colleen's access to her fan base during the promotional period, and that once that specific utility diminished, the social proximity diminished alongside it in ways that Colleen eventually noticed. The pattern of co-stars and collaborators quietly distancing themselves has become one of the more visually striking elements of how this situation has developed. Brandon Sklenar's original defense of Blake was passionate and public and unambiguous. He told people directly that anyone questioning her was spreading hate and undermining women. His Instagram subsequently went clean of Blake-related content without announcement or explanation. Colleen.
On TikTok, they're watching everyone on Instagram say, what you did is not okay. And they're standing in front of the world and they're saying, we can't be canceled because we're too connected. So what? Sorry for the rest of you guys. Sorry for the rest of you idiots who are beneath us. We just have to make a phone call to Ari Emanuel and we can get into a skit. And how we treat people doesn't matter.
Colleen Hoover's Instagram went quiet during the peak of the controversy. And when she returned to regular posting, the Blake content had effectively disappeared. Colleen's public alignment has shifted in a direction that suggests the private dynamic no longer matches what the promotional photographs implied. America Ferrera remains the most visible case study in this particular phenomenon because she is one of the few people in Blake's original public support circle who has not yet created any visible distance. Her original post is still up on Instagram. The comments underneath it have become their own sustained conversation, with people asking directly why she has not updated her public position after everything that has surfaced across the months since she posted it. Some observers are using it as an example of the specific trap that public celebrity solidarity creates. Once you have attached your name and face to a position in a high-profile controversy, finding a graceful exit without implicitly acknowledging that the original position was based on incomplete information becomes genuinely difficult. The social cost of the explicit retraction is often perceived as higher than the social cost of simply staying quiet and hoping people move on. America appears to be calculating that the staying quiet approach is preferable, and the comment section under her post reflects how well that calculation is landing with the people who are not moving on. The original New York Times piece that established much of the initial public narrative around Blake's claims was constructed and published in a way that made complete belief entirely reasonable for anyone who read it. A lot of people did believe it completely. They said so publicly, loudly, and with genuine conviction. Those public statements now exist as permanent documentation of positions that subsequent evidence has substantially complicated. Hollywood is currently dividing into two camps that are not entirely visible from the outside: the quietly still supportive group and the visibly embarrassed to have been publicly attached group, with the second growing and the first becoming markedly quieter with each new document batch that enters the public record. Blake continuing to push statements about justice and exposing bad actors after the settlement has formally concluded is the element of the current situation that genuinely confuses people most. Settlements are supposed to function as endings. The legal contest concludes, both sides issue whatever language they need to issue, and the active phase of the conflict closes. Instead, Blake's side is producing ongoing statements about retaliation, smear campaigns, and protecting future victims that read less like post-settlement messaging and more like a campaign that has not fully processed the fact that the underlying legal fight is over. The desperation to retain the moral narrative, even after the legal fight has concluded, is producing exactly the kind of transparency about priorities that damages credibility further with audiences who are already skeptical.
Simply hit up your A-list friends to further enable your abuse. Basically what they are signaling by hitting this carpet and intentionally getting photographed.
And entirely separately from the Blake situation, the rest of Hollywood is experiencing its own relationship with the question of how to manage public perception when social media has made every misstep permanently searchable. The Cannes situation this year captured it perfectly. A few years ago, celebrities treated the festival as an uncomplicated victory lap. Arrive in designer clothes, pose on balconies projecting artistic seriousness, execute the red carpet, accept the cultural elevation. Now, a meaningful portion of the industry is either avoiding the festival altogether or approaching it with visible anxiety because one clip filmed awkwardly during a standing ovation, one interview where the energy reads as inauthentic, one moment that gets extracted from context and distributed across TikTok can define a film's entire awards campaign before it has even opened to a general audience. Major American studios have started bypassing Cannes premieres specifically because the risk calculation has changed. A negative label that attaches online during the festival is nearly impossible to remove later. The internet does not lose those associations the way traditional media cycles used to. Jacob Elordi becoming a talking point in this environment illustrates exactly how the dynamic works. He was announced as a jury member alongside major figures, including Demi Moore, the kind of institutional recognition that serious film people spend careers working toward, a signal that the industry considers you credible and significant. Then he withdrew, citing a foot injury. Days later, photographs circulated of him in Hawaii, with Kendall Jenner looking entirely mobile, with no visible evidence of the injury that had prevented jury service. The internet's response was immediate and comprehensive. People started asking directly whether he had fabricated the injury to avoid professional responsibility in favor of a vacation, and that question attached to his name at a moment when his career was finally transitioning into the serious actor territory that the Cannes invitation was supposed to confirm. Dating a Jenner already creates a specific credibility conversation in certain corners of the film industry. There is a persistent, unfair perception that it trades on visibility rather than craft. Adding what reads as a manufactured exit from a prestigious institutional commitment compounds the exact narrative serious actors spend years trying to avoid. These situations are connected by the same underlying truth that the Blake Lively situation has illustrated most dramatically. Audiences have developed a sophisticated and largely accurate sensitivity to the specific texture of performed authenticity versus actual authenticity. The difference between a celebrity who is navigating something genuinely difficult and a celebrity who is engineering the appearance of navigating something difficult has become more legible to general audiences than the people running celebrity PR operations have yet fully accepted. The leaked texts, the deleted LinkedIn posts, the settlement with zero financial recovery, the post-settlement statements about justice, the quiet disappearance of co-stars from public alignment. Each of these things is individually explicable. Together, they produce a picture that audiences are quite good at reading. Blake and Ryan are now occupying what might be the most difficult position in contemporary celebrity culture. The people are tired of you zone. In that zone, nothing lands the way it is designed to. The pizza Instagram posts generate irritation rather than warmth. The reconnection gestures read as calculation rather than affection. The public appearances generate analysis rather than enjoyment. The statements generate skepticism rather than sympathy. And the rest of Hollywood is watching the whole thing unfold with the careful attention of people who are trying to understand exactly which decisions produce this outcome so they can avoid making them.